So good morning, we're back again with another Parsha Minute. So I want to go back to the question we mentioned just a few minutes ago about why is this mitzvah of Shemitah, of sabbatical, the sabbatical year and the Jubilee year, why is it mentioned to the Jewish people when they're in the desert? Okay, so I want to go back to something which is very, very fundamental. We may have mentioned it in the past, but I think it's an important principle in Judaism. You know, when I started learning Chumash, when I started learning the Torah the first time, in first grade, you'd think we start from the beginning. In the beginning, right? Then we'd start from Bereshis or Genesis. Wrong. We started from Leviticus, from the offerings. Now, there's a reason for it. There's a reason why we don't start school children learning the Chumash from the beginning. We start from the offerings, from Leviticus. There's another thing, is that we, when we start learning Talmud, we don't either learn practical things like Brachot, which is the first tractate in the Talmud. Instead, we start with Elam Mitzvot, things that you find an object, what do? You return it, how do you return it? And it goes into the whole thing, what quantity, in what area needs to be announced, which one does not, and it gets into a whole discussion about things, objects that you find. So the question was once presented to one of the great rabbis, and they asked him, why are we teaching this to our children? Why don't we teach them practical things? Let's teach them the laws of blessings. Let's teach them the parsha that deals with the mitzvahs. Let's deal with. So the rabbi says no. The rabbi says no. There's a reason why we do this. The reason is because for the Jewish people need to understand, and this is something which I think is so relevant to our generation. Not everything needs to make sense to you. We sometimes think, if I don't understand it, then it can't be. Oh, so there's no wisdom greater than yours. Like God's wisdom isn't any greater than yours, right? It has to make sense to you in order for it to be real. We have to teach our children, said the rabbi, we have to teach our children that Torah, you don't only learn because it's practical. You learn it because it's the wisdom of Hashem. Meaning, Shemitah, right? The sabbatical year that we see in our Torah portion right now. Shemitah wasn't relevant for another 40 years when they get into the land of Israel. So, it's still Torah. It's still wisdom. There's still something that you can derive from it. And even today, where we don't have offerings, right? There's a mitzvah to study the laws of the offerings. It's part of our prayer. We say the offerings. We sort of like, instead of bringing the actual offerings, we say the words that we would say in bringing the offerings. We don't learn Torah because it's practical. We don't use it as a document as, it's relevant to me, so I'm going to learn it. No. It's the wisdom of Hashem. The reason we learn Torah is because this is the wisdom, this is the desire, this is the design. It says also that the Torah is the blueprint of the world. So we're not only learning Torah for it to tell us, do this commandment, do that. Look, the fact that we have 15 Torah portions till we get to the beginning of the mitzvot that the Jewish people commanded. Right? Yeah, you have one mitzvah in the beginning of the Torah, you have a second mitzvah with Abraham, circumcision, you have one more mitzvah in Genesis, and that's it. 3 mitzvahs in the whole Genesis, 12 portions, you don't have anything. Then you have Shemot, not really any commandments. The next one, you have to get 15 portions into the Torah to start getting a list of mitzvahs. Because the Torah is not a book that's only used for practical purposes only. It's lessons, it's teachings, it's wisdom, it's connection with the Almighty. Right? So when our children begin to learn, we don't want to teach them only things that are practical. And then they say, oh, this is not relevant, this is not Torah. No, every part of it is Torah. Even the part that in our wisdom, we can't understand how it's relevant. Right? It's like, imagine if you're a teacher in school, right? You're a teacher in school, and your children say, algebra? What do I need algebra for? I'm not planning on becoming an accountant. I'm not planning on becoming a architect. So leave me alone. I don't need to learn this. Well, you need to learn it because, I know my son may say that. I'm sorry.
All the time. All the time. Why do I have to learn this?
Right?
Why do I have to learn it? When am I ever going to use it?
You tell him, because you don't only learn things that are practical for you, right? You learn it because it's wisdom and you need to know it. Especially, and more importantly, more than anything in the world, the wisdom of the Torah. The Torah's wisdom gives us life. Kihem chayenu. This is our life. This is our connection with the Almighty. This gives us a bond with the Almighty. Yes, you know what? School children, one of the things they're going to learn is what do you do if you find an object in the street? The scenario is so unlikely for it to happen. Now, you're not talking about $100 you find in the middle of the street. It has to be in a certain type of public domain that also has a private element. You find something in the middle of the street, you keep it, put it in your pocket and go. But it's talking in a specific scenario. You know why? You want to teach them not everything needs to be practical for it to be Torah. Torah is about wisdom. Torah is about a connection with the Almighty. And that goes way beyond, and it way transcends practicality to our limited understanding. And that's one of the reasons, another reason of why Shemitah was given specifically when the Jewish people are standing at Mount Sinai. They're 40 years away from entering into the land of Israel, and they're learning now the laws of the Shemitah. Then right now they're learning the laws of the sabbatical year that they're going to experience when they enter into the land of Israel. Because it's not only about practical application. It's about understanding. And when we understand the mitzvahs of Hashem, and we study them, the connection that we have with Him grows. So with that, my friends, have a terrific day. Have an amazing Shabbos ahead. And a happy, beautiful Lag BaOmer. And to all of our young adult friends out there, you're welcome to join us tonight. You can check on our website for the information. Looking forward to seeing you tonight. Have a magnificent Lag BaOmer. And as we say, Lag Sameach.